this afternoon? You doing good? For those of you that don't know me, I'm State Senator Bruce Tarr, and I'm the minority leader of the Massachusetts State Senate. And I proudly carry the torch for Massachusetts Republicans every day in the Senate. And I have a number of colleagues that are here today that you're going to hear about as well. But the most important thing is today that we are here at a critical juncture in the history of our nation. We all know that we feel deep down that we're on the wrong path. And we look for hope and the opportunity to change that. And we know that we're gathered here today to hear from a man, a leader, who has proven that he can give us that hope, that he can deliver the results, and he can give us the change that our country needs, and his name is Governor John Kasich. And so while others are focused on perhaps acrimonious debate and things that just don't get results, we're going to hear this afternoon from someone who proved in the United States Congress that he could deliver a real balanced budget. Someone who proved as governor of Ohio that he could engineer an economic turnaround and create jobs. Someone who is governor of Ohio proved that he understood and does understand that there is nothing more precious than what we give to our children in the way of a good, honest, meaningful, real education. And he's done that in the state of Ohio. And most of all, I think a lot of us are here because we know we live in a troubled world. We've got an aggressive regime in Russia. We've got trouble in the Middle East. We've got ISIS. We have people who every day remind us that they are our enemy because they hate our way of life. And I don't know about you, but I know I want someone in the corner office and in the Oval Office who reminds us every day that he cares about the men and women that fight our fights and wants to make sure that our enemies know that when he is President of the United States, they will have something to fear and we will have something to feel secure about. That's Governor John Kasich. So we're here this afternoon with a number of legislators that I have the honor of serving with on Beacon Hill. People who know the value of having balanced budgets and having honest decisions and having a government that's effective and efficient, because we all fight for that every day, and that's why we're here to fight for a man who can bring that to the White House and to Washington. So I'm pleased to introduce to you a great friend and colleague, one of your own from out here in Worcester County, a great state representative who knows why we're here, who cares about what we're doing, and is going to help us all out this afternoon, State Representative Kim Ferguson.
How about Senate Minority Leader Bruce Tarr? He's awesome. We are so happy to have him. I'm going to make this really quick. I have a very important job to do tonight, or this afternoon. My job is to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance, so we certainly need to start off with that. So if you can stand up, the flag is over here in the rear. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure being here with you all today. We really appreciate it. We are so excited. I get the honor of introducing my state co-chairman, Representative Paul Frost.
Thank you, Kim. Representative Kim Ferguson, my better half of the chairmanship here for the Massachusetts campaign for John Kasich. Let's give it a real round of applause for Representative Ferguson. Holden's own. We got some other folks who have been supporting John Kasich for a very long time. Representative Jay Barros from Foxborough. Mansfield, actually, but if you don't know where that is, it's near Foxborough. Representative Lenny Mira just joined us not too long ago up there in the North Shore. Representative Kate Campanelli. She is from Leicester and Worcester. And we're honored to have Representative David Meridian of Grafton here with us today. So thank you, David. Well, this is really exciting. We weren't sure what kind of crowd. Okay, we weren't sure what kind of crowd we were going to get. And honestly, we got a big one. So thank you for all who came out today. Governor John Kasich did so well in New Hampshire because he did these very things. He did town hall meetings. And he's been doing them in Michigan and South Carolina, and now his first one here in Massachusetts. Because he's listening to the people. He's doing one-on-one. He's the guy from Ohio who wants to make a difference for our country. Like he made a difference in Ohio, and like he made a difference in Washington, D.C. When, by the way, he was the last person to be the architect of the last time the state, the national budget ever turned a surplus, turned the deficit down, and was balanced. We kind of need that again, don't we? And then he left Congress, took some time, and decided to run for governor of Ohio. And he turned that state around. Much like our own governor here in Massachusetts did, Governor Charlie Baker. Like Governor Baker and like Governor Kasich, they weren't afraid to take on tough problems. They said, bring them on, because we can fix them. And that's what Governor Kasich did in Ohio. He turned that state around. He turned state surpluses, deficits into surpluses, created jobs, and he got reelected overwhelmingly just a few years ago. And by the way, that's important. Because why is it important? Because no Republican wins the White House unless they win Ohio. John Kasich can get the job done. It's not all talk. He's walked the walk. So it's my honor, it is my privilege to introduce the guy from Ohio, the next president from the United States, Governor John Kasich.
So what do you think? Three conies and a pickle down at Coney Island, huh? Yeah. And then I walked down the store and almost bought a ukulele. I thought that if you just picked it up, you could be good at playing it. They told me you have to take lessons, so I guess that'll be for another day. I love being here. You know why? Because when I'm in Worcester, Massachusetts, it's like I'm back home in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania. You know why? I'll tell you why. Hard-working, God-fearing, play by the rules, big dreams, pushing the kids up the ladder. Isn't that where we live? The hopes and dreams and for them. So I want you to know that my daddy carried mail on his back. He was a good man. He stuck his nose into everybody's business. They called him John the Mailman. And when my father died, they came and formed a line outside the funeral home to tell me about my daddy. And my daddy did something that we all need to be doing. He celebrated people's victories. And he went in their house and cried with them when they had loss. He was he was just John the mailman. And his father was a coal miner, and he got shafted. You know what this feels like. You know, he'd go down in the mine, he'd work all day long, he'd bring his haul up, and they would say to him, well, you know, half of what you dug down there is peat and not coal, so we have to cut your pay in half. Sound familiar? Huh? And he ended up dying of black lung, losing his eyesight as he was getting older. He would take some of his lunch home for his kids, and my Uncle George told me that when they would eat some of that lunch, they could still taste the mine in the sandwich. My mother's mother could barely speak English. She came from Yugoslavia, and the town I grew up was all Democrat. I don't even know that I met a Republican until I went to college. And my Uncle Harry, they said, was a Republican, but we paid no attention to Uncle Harry. And I never grew up with the notion that if you happen to be in a different political party from the party I'm in, somehow I'm supposed to hate you. I didn't grow up like that. I grew up, you know, being told, it's like my mother. I would say, Mom, tell me about what it was like, you know, to be poor as a kid, and your mother was Croatian, and she would say, Johnny, this is something we all better remember. We don't want to talk about the past. We want to talk about the fact that we're Americans before we're anything else. And and if we're going to solve the problems that we have in this country, stagnant wages, job insecurity, the future of our children, we better remember that we're Americans before we're Republicans and Democrats, and we need to work together to strengthen this country, plain and simple in my mind. So, in that little town, when the wind blew the wrong way, people found themselves out of work. But they were conservative folks, you know, God-fearing, a good day's pay for an honest day's work, and you play by the rules and all those things. And but yet it was a place, again, where I felt a little bit limited. So I decided to leave that town when I graduated from high school, and I went to a small little school in the Midwest. I'm not sure that any of you have ever heard of it. Let me see. Just tell me if it rings a bell. It's called Ohio State University. Okay. Yes. And so here's the thing. I get to that school, and there's 48,000 students there. I knew no one in Ohio, absolutely no one. And I found myself in a dormitory 23 floors high, filled with all 18-year-old freshmen boys and girls. And there was a duplicate tower, 23 floors high, all 18-year-old boys and girls, never been away from home. They used to call these towers Sodom and Gomorrah. And so I was there a few weeks, and I got very frustrated with things. And my Uncle Emil had told me, Johnny, if you ever want to make change, start at the top. So I called the president of the university's office and said, I'd like to have a meeting with the president. And they weren't going real fast to let me in. But I badgered them. So the young people that are here, badger people till they give you what you want, except for your mom and dad now, of course, okay? And they finally let me in, so I went in to see the president. And I told him what I was concerned about, and then I looked at him and I said, sir, you know, this is really great. I mean, your carpeting is beautiful, the furniture, the painted walls, this is really, really great. I'm undecided here at Ohio State. Maybe this is the job for me. What exactly do you do? And he told me about his fundraising responsibility and his academic responsibility. And he told me that he was going to go the next day to visit it with President Nixon because they had been familiar with one another. And I said, well, sir, there's a number of things that I would like to talk to him about also. Could I go with you? And he said, no, you can't. And I said, well, if I write a letter, would you give it to the president? Now, there's another lesson for the young people here. Keep walking until somebody tells you to stop, okay? Just keep going. So he looked at me, he said, I'll take it. And so I went back to my dorm room and I wrote a letter to the president, basically inviting myself for a discussion at the White House, and I signed it sincerely, John Kasich, P.S. If you'd like to discuss this further, you know, I've got time. I can come see you. So I go down to my mailbox a couple weeks later, and there's a letter from the White House, Office of the President. I open it up, I read it, I go upstairs, and I call home. And I said, Mom, I'm going to need an airline ticket. The President of the United States would like to have a meeting with me in the Oval Office. And my mother is shouting, honey, pick up the phone. Something's really wrong with Johnny. I mean, is that the craziest story you ever heard? This is all true. And, you know, they didn't know what to think about this. And, but they got me an airline ticket, and I got on the plane. I flew to Washington. I went in through security, and I was sitting right outside the Oval Office. And a guy walks up to me, he says, you get 5 minutes alone with the President of the United States. I'm an 18-year-old first quarter freshman. What do you think? Do you think that's pretty good? And you, what do you think that's pretty good? I'll tell you what I'm thinking. New jacket, new shirt, new tie, new pants. I didn't come here for 5 lousy minutes. You're out of luck. So they opened up the door to the Oval Office. I walked in, greeted the President, and you know, and I sat at his desk for 20 minutes as, you know, this 18-year-old kid. That's the good news. The bad news is I spent 18 years in Congress, and you add up all the time I spent in the Oval Office, I peaked out at the age of 18. So, you know, anything is possible. And I want you to know that, and I know you can get this, because there are special places where you can go where you know where people can get you. You see, my mom and dad taught me, you're your own man. Nobody should ever tell you what to do. I wanted to play Little League Baseball more than anything else. And I was a little boy, I was just a little runt. And to go out for tryouts, you had to put a number on your back. And you ran out into the field as fast as you could go, and then you would take your swings at the bat, and then they would write your number down if they wanted you to be on the team, and they would call you at night. So I tried this for a couple years. I never got a phone call. And then I found out that a lot of my buddies who were playing ball had their fathers as coach. So I went to my dad and I said, Dad, look at this situation. You know, I'm a good baseball player. I can play as well as my friends. They're on the team and I'm not. How about helping me out, Dad? You know what my dad said? No, Johnny. We don't owe anybody anything. You earn it on your own. And I have to tell you, usually I'm not happy when somebody breaks a leg, but that year some kid broke his leg and I made the baseball team. That's fantastic. But I did it on my own. And I want you to know, I wish I could see you all right here close in my eyes, because I am never going to do politics where anybody is ever going to keep me from doing the things that I think we need to do to help our country and to help people. And that's what I've done. Well, I need you to check it out. Don't take my word for it. Go check it out. Go and research what I've done in my career, because I've been really lucky with a lot of really great people. And there are other people that operated that way. You see, we're not establishment. You know what the establishment is? You think the establishment's down there at Coney Island? Huh? They don't go to Coney Island.
But you do.
But I do. That's right. And here's the thing. The person that the establishment really lived in fear of in my lifetime, because I met him in 1976 as just a really young kid. The establishment feared Ronald Reagan. They mocked him, they called him names, they belittled him. And he was defeated in 1976. But then he kicked the door down and he became the president and changed our country. Newt Gingrich, the guy I served with, we had been in the minority as Republicans for 40 years. The establishment feared Newt Gingrich because they couldn't tell him what to do. And we won the majority. We only did a couple simple things like fixing welfare and balancing the federal budget. But we didn't take orders from anybody, okay? We just look at the problems and try to fix them. And I was in Congress, you know, when I don't know how much was said about me, but I played a role. I spent 10 years of my life to get the budget balanced. And I want you to know there was a time when I was offering budgets against the president of my own party. And after 10-year struggle, we got to a balanced budget. And we balanced the budget 4 years in a row. We paid down $500 billion of the national debt. We cut the tax on risk-taking and investment. And at the end of the century into the beginning of this century, jobs were growing up through the roof. And we had a projected $5 trillion surplus. And you see, when you cut taxes and you have fiscal responsibility, you can get jobs. And why did the jobs matter? Because when I was a kid, if the dad came home from work and didn't have a job, the family paid the price. And when dad came home with a job, or with a pay raise, or with a promotion, the family celebrated. I mean, once in a while you could maybe even get a shrimp cocktail. Not very often, but every once in a while. And so I learned the critical nature of creating a job, because that's what helps the families and the children and the community. And so that's been my biggest purpose. And then as governor, I went in, we'd lost 350,000 jobs. We were $8 billion in the hole. Had a great team of people, shook everything from top to bottom. After my first year, I was the most unpopular governor in America. Nobody likes that title, but it didn't bother me all that much. And then 4 years later, and even today, we went from $8 billion in the hole to $2 billion in the black, a loss of 350,000 jobs to a gain of over 400,000 jobs. Our pensions are strong, our credit is strong, and Ohio is hopeful again about the future. And as we have grown the economy, we've left no one behind. We don't believe the mentally ill ought to be in a prison or live under a bridge. And we don't believe the drug addicted ought to be flushed down the drain. And we believe the working poor ought to have health care. Those are the things that we believe. You see, I believe that in our country, it's not good enough if some rise. It's only good enough if everybody has a chance to rise. You know, I'll tell you the other thing that my mother taught me that was really important in the way I approach things. She used to say, Johnny, it's a sin not to help people who need help, but it is equally a sin to continue to help people who need to learn how to help themselves. And we are putting that into the fabric of all of our systems. But everybody deserves a chance. So, let me just tell you this. In the first 100 days, I will have a plan to restore common sense rules and regulations so we're not choking small businesses. They're the ones that employ our families. Number two, I will have a plan to reduce the taxes on individuals like Reagan did, the 28%, 25, 10 with the capital gains at 15. And for businesses, we're not going to double tax them. They pay taxes in Europe. Bring your money home. Invest in America. Don't invest in Europe, and make us competitive again so our workers can have the tools for better wages. And I'm going to have a plan to balance the budget and restrain spending, and I have it, and you can find it, and I can get into the details of it. But in the process, I want to send welfare and the rules to you, and education to you, and programs, health care for the poor, to you, and job training to you, and infrastructure to you. You see, I think Washington is too big, too inflexible, too dinosaur-like, and I want you to have the authority back here. But let me also say, I'm down there at Coney Island, and this little boy and his mom and dad come by. Mom had broke her ankle. Dad's standing there, and there's this little kid. And she says to him, tell the governor what you did. Well, some policeman that lived in their neighborhood got sick. And this little boy of 7 stood outside of their home and raised $1,600 for this policeman. How does a 7-year-old kid do that? But you know what? See, that's McKees Rocks. That's Worcester, Mass. We're all connected. You know, here's the thing. There is not going to be some president come riding in here on a white Charger, okay, to solve all of our problems. If I'm president, my job's going to be to get this economy going again and deal with Social Security, the border, and rebuild the defense. Okay, that's my job. But the strength of our country doesn't rest in somebody that lives 500 miles away from us. The spirit and the strength of our country is what happens where we live. And I got to tell you, I just happen to believe that we've got a great God, okay? I happen to believe that. Now, some of you don't believe, that's okay. But I believe it. And by the way, just to be confused, I'm pro-Pope, just so you all know, okay? Jeez, oh man, huh? And by the way, despite that, I'm going to stay positive in this election, even if I don't win, because we need to be positive and not negative in getting to the White House. You know, and that great God makes all of us special. You know, nobody, and this young man right here, you're special, kiddo. Yeah. God made you special. You know that? Yeah. He made you special, and all of us special. And so for the young people that are here, hi, girls. Huh? You know you're special, and you're made to do something. We don't know what it is. Maybe you'll be a doctor or a nurse or a teacher, or maybe you'll be in the military. We don't know. But everybody here has a mission. We all have a mission. And the mission is to try to live a life bigger than ourselves. Because, you know, we can be here. And I was talking to somebody this morning. I can't remember. Maybe it was up in Vermont. And it was in Vermont. And this woman was a intervention teacher. She was handling the kids who come from the toughest backgrounds, who get the most frustrated and at times even violent. And she says, I'm not making much money. She said, but I love my job. And I said, well, you may not be getting paid now, but you know it's a long game. It's a long game, and the rewards will come for those that do the best they can to serve and lift others. I'm not applying for anything. I'm the most flawed man in this room. But here's what I know. You get up every day and you have a mulligan. Every day you got another chance. And this country will get its spirit back when we believe in our ability to heal the things in our communities, the problem of education, the problem of the overflow and the curse of drugs, the loneliness that we find in so many people that live in this country today, and that widow, married 54 years, and her husband dies and nobody ever takes her to dinner. You know what happens when you take her to dinner? You tell her, we're coming to get you on Saturday night. Get ready. Friday she gets her hair done, and Saturday she wears a dress she hadn't worn in months. When things like that happen, I believe they get recorded in the book of life. So why don't all of us just make this world a little bit better place? And if we can fix it in that city far away, that it seems as though they never hear us, and we can do our job here where we live, America's going to be the best we've ever seen it. I hope you agree with all that, huh? Okay. Now we take some questions, okay? But I never take the question of the first hand up. Okay, do I have a question? We'll get to you, but I've learned this. I only did 106 town halls in, right there. Yes, ma'am, right here. A Social Security question. What is that?
WET. If you have a pension, no matter how low or high it is, they take away.
You mean an offset?
They take away the Social Security.
Well, first of all, I think it means an offset. Is this happening to you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, we got that. Well, look, I'd like to know the specifics because you see, what Reagan did and Tip O'Neill is the program was going bust again, as it's going bust now. And if I were to promise you, well, we'd reverse all that and everything will be fine, I wouldn't be telling you the truth. So let me just go on a little bit longer. So if you were in the military paying into Social Security, you would get both your military pension and your Social Security. But if you hadn't paid in, if you were a teacher or something like that, it's different, and there is an offset. But I'd have to get the specifics of what you're talking
I
about.
worked all my life, 2 jobs, my daughter and I worked for the state. My state is little clerical job.
Yeah.
And they're taking $700 out of my Social Security.
And you get a pension from the state.
I'm getting $1,000 a month.
Yeah. Look, I'd like to look at the specifics of what you have so I can look at it, because the long-term solution to Social Security is something that is, here's what it is. If you've been wealthy throughout your lifetime, you'll still get Social Security, but you'll get less. For those who really depend on it are going to get their full benefit. And if we do that, we can fix the system forever. And that's what I would propose in the first 100 days. In terms of what's happening to you, I'd like to look at it, okay? So whoever handed you the microphone, get her number and her name, and we'll call you, and I will look at it, okay? And try to figure out the most fair thing we can do.
Governor, this is my son Billy. He's 19 years old.
Yeah.
And he's a registered voter. He's a registered voter. He will soon be turning 22, which many of us parents call the cliff, because there will be a tsunami of children like him with autism, intellectual and developmental disabilities that will be aging out of the school department in the state.
Hi.
What can you do as president to ensure this funding so that he can be dignified and have a job and also have a safe place to live?
Hi. Thank you.
Can you give Billy a round of applause, huh, for coming here today? Now, I want to give you, I don't want to give you the impression that I'm Santa Claus, so anything you ask me for, I'm going to say you're going to get, because that's how we got into this mess, okay? And the problem is, if you give, and I'm going to get to Billy here, but if you give everything that people ask for, we're 19 trillion in debt. I mean, the interest on the debt is $225 billion. Just think if we took 100 billion of it and we could use it to fight Alzheimer's, dementia, pancreatic cancer. But you see, every politician wants to tell everybody everything they want to hear. Sometimes you can't. I don't think I told her exactly what she wants to hear, but I'm going to find out what her story is. We got to save Social Security. We're not going to save it by passing out more, but I got to find out what it is. In regard to Billy, we have undertaken a huge plan in the state to be able to get the developmentally disabled to be integrated and mainstreamed in the community. You see, somebody like Billy doesn't have to be in a sheltered workshop. Somebody like Billy can work in a hospital. He can work at Walmart. We can work in many of the businesses that we know. You don't want to work at Walmart, Billy? Okay. All right. Well, maybe we can get you a job working for the Boston Celtics. How about that? Would you like that, Billy? Okay, he would like that. He's a what now? Oh, you did. You said yes to Walmart. Yes. Okay, Walmart. But you see, we have to get the companies to say that there's a place for Billy. And Billy's going to have a place where he can work, where he can realize the potential he has. Now, many of you in here, and I see a guy right here plays golf. How's your game? Fair. I'll bet it isn't that good. But here's the thing. I don't know if you've heard about this new golfer, Jordan Spieth. He seems to be an incredible young man, from everything I read. And you know what they say that keeps him grounded? His little sister, who's developmentally disabled. You see, people like Billy have to have a place to be able to live out their purpose in life. And it will not be the same for all, but we have to have our businesses accommodate them. And then I want to tell you that we spent the most amount of money in our budget on the programs for the developmentally disabled, and we want to get them in the community, by the way. We don't want to be living in a big place. We want them to have a community living, which we can achieve and is difficult, probably would frighten you, but that's the direction we want to go. And so, and one other thing. There's a lady who lives in Michigan who started a place called Angel's Place, and she now has about, I think she said, over 20 of these homes, because you have to understand that parents, as they get older, start to worry about the fate of their children. Am I right? Now, if we can get them in a community setting, and this lady is creating these beautiful places where people can get 24-hour care and where they can be appreciated and loved. And see, the way I look at it is, we all kind of have to think about Billy. And so we own a business, we have a business, or we work in a business, give Billy a shot. I can tell you in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio, one of the major hospital system in Central Ohio has been employing people like Billy for years. It brings satisfaction, hope to the family, and it's absolutely the right thing to do. So Billy, I'll see you at Walmart, okay? You never used a microphone in front of us. Don't be nervous.
Everybody could probably hear me without it.
Why is it? It doesn't seem like you're nervous.
No, I'm not really nervous.
You're not.
I think you're just a lovely man. Very. Yes, I did. I think you're a lovely man, kind, generous,
Okay,
sincere. I'm not a plant, but I worry because the one thing that worries me is Putin, some of these other leaders, some of these other people, politicians, your rivals, how tough and aggressive, and I worry that you're just so nice.
Yeah, okay. Believe me, I can get you out of that attitude. I got a couple friends back here. Well, you know, when I got into the race, they all said that I was really brusque and tough, and you know what? I am. Because when you come from McKees Rocks, you come from Worcester, Mass, nobody hands you anything. You got to fight your way up. You know, where I went to high school, if your high school came in and played us in football, and if you beat us, we just broke every window on your bus. I mean, no, I don't. I tell you what's really happened to me is I've come to learn about the needs that a lot of people have. But let me tell you, I've won a lot of elections. I beat an incumbent, a Democrat in my state for governor. And it was the first time somebody who had never run statewide ran for governor in 96 years. In 1982, I was the only Republican to defeat a Democrat in America running with Reagan. No, it doesn't, this is not, I don't want you to have the wrong impression. You know, it's possible to be kind and at the same time very tough. So let me explain to you a couple things about our watch what I say, the guy in Russia, Putin, okay? See, because I don't want to say, I could say all kinds of things that have you cheering and screaming, okay? But I may have to sit across the table from him. Let me tell you what I would tell him. First of all, we have any Ukrainians here? Yeah. About time I found a Ukrainian. I've asked that question all over New Hampshire. Maybe some of you ought to move there. You know, start a colony over in New Hampshire. Well, let me tell you. The Ukrainians are going to get the weapons that they need to defend themselves against the Russians. Okay, there's no debate about it in my mind. And let me tell you something else that Mr. Putin needs to understand. You attack Finland, Sweden, or any of the people that are in NATO who are our allies, you attack them, you're attacking us. I don't need to threaten the man. I don't need to rattle a saber. But you need to understand, no more. No more nonsense. No more saying we're going to go save the Russian-speaking people. That's a joke. Okay, now with the Chinese, we don't need to make them an enemy either. You cyber attack us, we will have the capability to take out your systems. And let me also tell you, you don't own the South China Sea. Okay, you don't own it. And knock off the cheating on trade, because we're not going to tolerate that either. Now, let me just say to you, I was the first one that said we need to destroy destroy ISIS, okay? Now everybody says it, and I'm glad they're all saying it. But let me tell you, it's tough business. I served on the Defense Committee for 18 years, and I went to the Pentagon after 9/11 at the request of Secretary Rumsfeld. And I remember the coalition we put together with the Muslim Arabs to go against Saddam when he invaded Kuwait and our friends in Europe, and we all went. And you cannot do this just from the air. I wish you could just bomb people into oblivion, that's the end of it. You cannot win that way. You're going to have to be on the ground. We will lose people. It will be tough, but we will prevail. And then once we destroy ISIS and settle things down, we get the heck out of there and come home and let the people there handle. We're not going to go nation build. And these countries over there, they all know they're at risk. And, you know, ISIS wants to destroy all of us. And if you're a woman, of course, they think you're property. We have to destroy them because they're intent on destroying us. And here at home, we have a thing called the counterterrorism task forces. Now, the counterterrorism task forces are made up of the FBI, Homeland Security, state and local law enforcement. And they do a great job in disrupting. They need the resources, the money, and they need the tools. They can't have people planning in secret. Now, let me say one other thing. We're all reading now about Apple and the government, okay? When you are the President of the United States, you get the technologists and the law enforcement and counterterrorism operations in a room, and you say you are not coming out of this room until you figure this out, period. Stop the lawsuits and the argument out in public. And, by the way, it's not so simple. We have to have a check on the government. I mean, you just can't go around just violating our privacy. At the same time, you can't have people carrying around information that might mean that they come to Worcester and blow some of us up, and we're not going to share it with them. Now, we don't need to have, the Apple people involved in divorce proceedings or involved in some sort of crimes. But when it comes to the issue of terrorism, there's going to have to be a solution. And we don't need to talk about it. Just go do it and keep your mouth shut, okay? Just go fix it. Now, I may be a nice guy. Do you think they're going to walk out of that room? No, you look at me. Right here, sir.
So my name's Mike Fitzgerald. I'm a Marine Corps disabled vet. I have a traumatic brain injury, and I suffer from PTSD on a daily basis. My question, sir, pertains to the disability claims that veterans put forward to help their families and help themselves. My claim was put in effect, or was given to the VA in June of 2010. I have yet to hear results of that. And it just, I know a lot of veterans, when they come home, they struggle from depression, and I believe the current statistic is that 22 veterans are committing suicide on a daily basis.
Where's our Republican leader? Is he here? Where is he? Bruce, you go over there and get that information. Because you go over there and get that information. Look, first of all, get the information. We'll get to. I'll call down to the. We'll call the congressman and we'll get this fixed. Okay. Let me say a couple things about the veterans. First of all, when a veteran comes home, they shouldn't be standing around waiting for somebody to answer the phone. They should go get health care wherever they need it and wherever they want it. Period. End of story. Every Republican candidate feels this way, and the Democrats too. Nobody is going to. The veterans have been stepped on for too long, and you're not going to let it continue. And we're going to have this whole VA fixed. Now, I tell you, I know the guy running the VA. He went to West Point. He served his country. He ran Procter & Gamble. He took this job, and it became clear to me that the bureaucracy of the job has overwhelmed him. He wasn't able to straighten out the bureaucracy. You know why? It's too big and it's unaccountable. Nobody is held accountable for what goes on for a story like this. So what has to happen, there's a term, it's called restructure. That's when big companies can't function, they fix themselves by making themselves more responsive, smaller, lighter on their feet so they can respond to the customer. That's precisely what has to happen to the VA, and the best folks in restructuring in America have to change the very nature of the Veterans Administration, make it smaller, spread it out, and make it responsive to the veterans of our country, okay? Number two, in my state and what I would do in the country, if this guy drives a truck in Afghanistan, he wants to drive a truck in Illinois or in Ohio or in Massachusetts, they have a thing called a CDL, Commercial Driver's License. You think we're going to go ask a veteran to go take a test to get a CDL? We're going to give him the CDL. I mean, look, if you can drive a truck from Kabul to Kandahar, you certainly can drive one from Worcester to Boston. Although I don't know about Boston, okay? Now, if they served and they were an EMT, they get to be an EMT in America. No questions asked. And if they have technical experience, they get credit in the community college or the four-year school. Now, here's something that no one has thought about, and I know about this because I've been dealing with it. When a veteran is coming home, many times they want to take 30 or 60 days to readjust. But Marine, what I want to happen with you is I want you to know that when you come back to America, even if you're not ready to begin to deal with what your life is going to look like, I want your family to know that we are going to connect you to the available jobs that exist in the state where you live. Now, it doesn't happen very well. There's so much bureaucracy and no connection. See, when you come home and you tell us what you want to do or get a sense of what you want to do, we've got a list over here of the openings, because we have job openings in Massachusetts and nobody's available to fill them. And you know who the golden employees are? They're veterans. They're drug-free, they're leaders, they're resilient, and they can do about anything. So I want to suggest this to you. We're going to change that in this country. And never again will we ever see a combat veteran who is homeless or unemployed in the United States of America. We can never let that happen again. Right here, sir. And then we'll go to you. Yes, sir, right here.
Okay. As thinking optimistically, as president, what would you expect of your cabinet?
Well, back to this lady, to listen what I tell them to do, okay? See, I have a cabinet in my job. See, Ohio is the 7th largest state. I mean, you know, we got a $63 billion budget. I mean, this is not, this is a big operation. And much of what you learn there, you can take. Now, the most important thing is the transition team to get started. You got to know who you're going to bring in. Now, I have a lot of people in mind that I've worked with for years who I would bring in, and they understand my philosophy. Look, first of all, everybody that comes into a cabinet has to work together, and we have to work together to create a job-friendly environment. And what I want to see is cabinet members work together, and frankly, we have too many cabinet members. We need to combine more operations in Washington, shrink it down so we can hold more people accountable. Now, see this thing? Anybody in there have one? Okay. Oh, sweetheart, do you have one? Okay, what? You what? You have an iPod. What is that little animal? Is that a, what is that? Is that a lion? What's his, oh, a sea lion. What's his name? Fluffers.
Fluffers.
Fluffers, that's a good name for a sea lion. I can't think of a better one than Fluffers, okay? Maybe Bernie. So you see this, I remember years ago when a friend of mine told me that we would be the constantly connected consumer. We would buy more things through this than we do going to the mall. You think about communication. My mother told me 50 years ago. She said, Johnny, the day's going to come when you're going to have to look good when you make a phone call because they're going to be able to see you. And now I FaceTime my daughters. And transportation, can you believe it? I read today they said there's going to be a flying car in 2 years. I don't know who was saying it. I know that I believed in it when I saw Chitty Chitty Bang Bang for the first time. Isn't that a great movie? I love that movie. Anyway, and we think about medicine is changing. You know, we're going to get to the point where X-rays are going to be, they're going to be the most significant breakthrough in the diagnosis of so many of our illnesses, I'm told. You know, right now I'm told you can get a car from Central Park to the very foot of Manhattan for $5 in an operation, I don't know if it's called Lyft or one of them. Yep. See, when my kids, who are 16 now, twins, we were in Florida about 5 or 6 years ago, and they said, Daddy, what is that over there? I said, what girls, what? That box over there. I said, oh, yeah, that's where Superman changes his clothes. And we used to put money in the phone to make a phone call, and they're like, no way, okay? So you know what? Everything is moving fast. The only thing that doesn't move fast is government. And the reason it doesn't is because people are afraid to innovate and change. If you're in business, you don't innovate and change, you die. In government, you just spend more money. And so we have to get innovation in the government. And when you ask about a cabinet, we got to think 21st century. How can we deliver services more effectively, more efficiently, at a lower price? And that's what the cabinet needs to understand. And let me talk a little bit about the Pentagon. Inside, I get more phones this way. Thank you very much. Inside the Pentagon, you know we got to spend more money on defense. But we currently have you're not going to believe this, 800,000 people who perform bureaucratic functions in the Department of Defense. 800,000. How many people live in Worcester? 125? Huh? 25,000. 125. Well, you do the math, okay? It's six times greater of the bureaucracy. So we have seen a weapon system develop it for 22.5 years. Some of them should be done in like 6 or 7 years. So we have to clean up everything because you know why people don't do it? It's OPM. You know what that is? Yeah, other people's money. And so we've got to reinvent that entire federal government, and part of it works when we send the power to you. But I got to tell you, this legislator, you know, the great thing about putting the power locally is you know where he lives. You can demand things from him that you can't demand from somebody that's living in a real far away a place away. And that's why we have to make government move faster at the speed of business, not like a dinosaur, sir. So that's what I want that cabinet to do, among probably a zillion other things. Okay, yes, sir, right here.
My name's Bobby McDermott. I'm from Hanover, Massachusetts, down on the South Shore, but I go to school at... Yeah, represent. I'm a political science major at UMass Amherst. My question... Yeah, there we go, everyone. My question for you is about higher education. You talk a lot about your budget, talk about you have plans to shift things around, but a lot of campaigns and selection will talk about higher education being a right, not a privilege. And you hear other people talking about how we have a skills gap in America, where there are tons of jobs, aluminum welders, that make $200,000 a year, but no one is willing to take those positions. Yeah. Do you have would you take that position for $200,000 a year? If it made more than what I'm getting now, then yes. My question for you is, what is your plan on student loan debt and moreover sort of incorporating technical skills and other things in the workforce?
Okay, so we have, is Worcester the Paris of the 80s? That is really a great shirt. I've been looking for the Eiffel Tower since I came to town. Beautiful courthouse, by the way. Okay, let's answer your question. First of all, let's talk about those who have not yet gone to college. I was at a school yesterday, I can't remember where, South Carolina, okay? It's hard for me to remember where I am sometimes. Do you know what it costs to go for 1 year to that college and have enough credit to transfer to a 4-year school? $3,800. Now, why do we go and pay $45,000 if we could get a year or two at $3,800 and cut the cost of college in half? So moms and dads, when your kids are looking to go somewhere, think about the cheapest way or the most efficient way to get that education. Now look, I mean, a lot of kids, they want to go to college, it's brand. One of my daughters wants to go to Arizona to college. I said, okay, where do you want to go? She says, I don't know, I just want to go to Arizona, okay? I mean, the fact is that we have to be smart about how we pick where we want to go. Secondly, make sure that your children and grandchildren are taking college credit courses in high school. I assume they have it here, don't you? So take as many courses as you can, because that's free. Some kids have completed almost the first year of college in high school. And then, this is what's really disturbing. We can have kids that graduate from a school that's a good school with good grades. We find out when they go to college they have to take remedial math and English. So they're taking courses they should have learned in the 11th grade. And guess what? They're paying tuition. So we need to have, Bruce, an online program where kids can remediate themselves before they graduate from high school. So when you get to wherever you're going to get to, you can hit the ground running. Now let's talk about the colleges and universities themselves. What do you think the #1 goal is of a college president today? What do you think their goal is for tomorrow?
Raise money, make money.
Keep the enrollment high.
The answer is they want to be a president tomorrow. Do you know how hard it is to bring change in K-12 education and higher education? Because anytime you recommend a change, everybody that lives in the community screams and yells at you. They tried to run this IBM executive out of being president of the University of Iowa. Why? Accountability. Let's take the costs out. The president of Ohio State went ahead and leased the parking garages and the surface parking lots at Ohio State. He was fought by most of the people in the university community. He got $500 million that he put in scholarships by doing it. But let me ask you a more fundamental question. Why is Ohio State running a parking garage? Let them focus on what they're supposed to do. And the administrative costs in higher education are what's going through the roof. Let me tell you, kid, this keeps up, there's going to be more 4-year schools that are going to shut down, because all of a sudden parents are going to wise up. And we're going to be getting our education online with some sort of a real-world 4-year college experience combined. And here's the thing, though. We promised all these kids, all of us did, you go to college, you'll get a good job, and it'll all work out. So they've all gone to college, they've rung up debt, and they can't find a job. And now they're stuck with this debt, and they have an interest rate that keeps growing, and their debt keeps growing. It's untenable. So first of all, they ought to be able to restructure their loans. You shouldn't be paying a sky-high interest rate when the interest rates are lower, okay? Number 2, I'm not opposed to some sort of community service to work off some of that debt. But everybody in this room has to understand, when we forgive college debt, we are all paying for it. Do you know that? There's no money that, Bernie, I'm sorry. Free Ben and Jerry's, but you can't have free college, okay? It doesn't work. I don't know if you know about Ben and Jerry's. They're a couple of Vermont guys. So anyway, here's what I would tell you, though. We got to figure something out. And we may, I don't know yet. What I will tell you is we have to control the rising costs before we forgive the debt. Because if we forgive the debt and don't control the costs, we're just going to have more debt. And I think at some point, though, for the good of our kids, we got to figure out a way to alleviate some of this debt. And I don't know what the answer is yet. I know one thing: if we could get a stronger economy, you'll get bigger wages, you'll have a better job, and we're back to the job thing again. But at the end of it, I think there's something we're probably going to have to do to help you out. So let me think about more things. I can take one more because I got to go. I don't know where, but I'm on my way. Way in the back, sir.
Just get on
yes,
the bus.
you. I want to do in the first 100 days. I'm going to have this freeze of all federal regs for 1 year except for health and safety. I'm going to force the Congress to vote on any regulations in excess of $100 million because we can't be in a position where we got the bureaucrats making laws. When they get elected, they can make laws, okay? But let's slow down here. And the vice president, you know, vice presidents today, they spend all their time, you know what they do? They go to funerals. So what we'll do is give them a job. And their job is going to be to untangle a lot of these regulations that have hurt people and hurt small business. Number 2, 28, 25, 10 with the capital gains at 15, a 25 corporate rate, write off all your investment in plant and equipment in 1 year. Don't double tax profits after the first time you bring 2 or 3 trillion back at about 5 or 6%, then no more double taxation. And then a plan to freeze all non-defense discretionary, put more money into defense, and then be able to slow the growth of Medicare from 7 to 5% and Medicaid from 5 to 3%. And then a plan to fix the border, which means you fix the border. Nobody comes in once you fix it, unless they come in orderly. If you come in and sneak in, you're going home. But a guest worker program to come in and out for the 11.5 million that are here. If they haven't committed a crime since they've been here, they'll pay a fine, back taxes. Maybe we'll prevent them from getting benefits for some period of time and let them be legalized in our society, but never a path to citizenship. We'll have a program on Social Security. As I mentioned to this lady back here, we've got to fix that. And we got to get on the veterans right away. That's going to have to be in the mix. And then I'm going to have to fly around Europe and visit with these people who've got to be our friends and understand we have their back and begin to put together a coalition for ISIS. And then I'm going to get the names and phone numbers of all the mothers and fathers who have kids in Congress so I can call the moms on their birthday and have them call their kids and say, if you mess with the president, you're messing with me, okay? And I'm going to do all of that, including sending welfare, Medicaid, the programs for transportation and job training back to the states. That will all be done in the first 100 days, and that is what I'm going to call my shock and awe program to fix America, okay? Look. And folks, and then my doctor, he said to me, he's my friend, he said, and what would be great is after 100 days, you could give people a report on how it's going. And the goal is to move quickly, to accomplish a lot of things, and get the country moving. And if you don't have a seatbelt, get one for your chair. Because when you're watching all those shows, and by the way, once in a while, why don't you just put on like the Golf Channel or, you know, don't watch all that political stuff. It'll just depress you, okay? Just watch something else watch bowling. I mean, come on. Get on to all that stuff. Anyway, this is coming soon, Massachusetts. I'd like to take this to the country. Would you help me, please? If you don't like me, don't tell anybody. And if you do, help me to win the state of Massachusetts. Thank you all very much.
There was Governor John Kasich, Hibernian Center here in Worcester, Massachusetts on Temple Street. Meat and Potato Show was able to get a corner here, get a nice, almost front row seat for the great governor. It's gonna go all over social media. What a great event. Christopher Mader, the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk. our great counselor, Michael Gaffney.